Welcome to another episode of PSL on the Mic, the City of Port St. Lucie's official podcast. So we are very close to the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. It begins on June 1st. And the entire month of May, we're devoting our podcast to two departments, emergency management and public works, so they can show us. Well, yeah, for those watching, they can see it too, I guess. See us at least. How we prepare the city for a hurricane and how we recover after a hurricane. So today, first up is Billy Weinshank. He is the Emergency Operations Division Director here. And he's going to talk about what it means when the city activates for a storm. A lot of residents might not know what that means, and it's very important. So he's going to talk about what that means for our city staff, but most importantly, what it means for our residents. So welcome to the podcast, Billy.
Thank you. Glad
Your
to
first
be here.
time here. We had your colleague here last year, or the year before. Oh my gosh, it's 2023. Wow, time is flying. Before we get started, tell us a little bit about your past, how you got here, your experience, and what you do here at the city.
Sure. I've been in emergency management, public safety for about 30 years.
Wow.
Spent 23 years, and I did the math today. It's telling me I'm
It's
old.
incredible.
I'm old. I was in Palm Beach for 23 years. I started out general public safety and then moved into emergency management and then moved up to terrorism response planning because that was like during ISIS and all that.
Sure. After 9/11, post 9/11, yeah.
So that was fun and exciting. And I've always lived here, though. I've lived in Port St. Lucie since 95.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
So
that. Interesting.
I
Cool.
made the commute, and about 7 or 8 years ago, I got a call from St. Lucie County, not the city, saying they had posted a job and did I want to check it out? Was I interested? And they finally caught up in salaries here and there, so I took it. I came up here, worked there for about 2 years, then this slot opened up, and it was a really great opportunity. One of the best decisions I've made was to come aboard. I've been here 5 years now, and super happy. Hopefully I can stay till I retire. We'll see.
We love having you here. I think we started around the same time. I started in May of 2020.
Yeah. I was October.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right. Pandemic, prime pandemic.
So you're my senior.
I am. I'm senior
Yes.
by like 6 months.
I will call you Miss Kenyon. from
Yes.
now on.
Okay. Please do.
I
No.
shall.
So, thank you for that. So when let's get into it. Like hurricane, tropical storm is projected to impact our area in some way. The past few years, knock wood, we've been okay with major hurricanes hitting us directly. What happens first when we hear this? The weathermen say, "Hey, let's prepare." What does EM do first?
So we're always watching. So a lot of times, it sounds weird, right? But we're always watching the Atlantic and the
course.
Gulf of America, always watching systems, want to see what's brewing out there. And usually, the weather professionals will call it a potential tropical cyclone, meaning it may or may not form tropical characteristics and become a tropical storm or a hurricane. So we'll usually know like 7 to 10 days before we even get in the cone that there's something out there to be aware of.
To watch, yeah.
So we'll start watching it. As we get into the cone, we'll have a better idea of how the system's evolving, what the probability of it becoming strong, and if so, how much, and also where it may hit, where it may make landfall. So as we're doing that, once we say, okay, we're at 50% or greater probability of this forming, we're in the cone of uncertainty, they call it. You have 3 different colored cones within a tropical system. So the furthermost outside cone means that you may experience effects within 5 days. Now it's 7, actually. They've improved upon it. And just to add this while we're talking about it, those cones used to be big where, 5 days out it would cover the whole state. The software, the math behind it all has improved so much that it's a much thinner swath.
Smaller,
now.
yeah.
So when we're under a watch or a warning, we're in a cone, the odds are much better than they were in the past that we will be impacted in some day. So, sorry, I stepped off track.
A lot of people want to know about that. So when we know, it's going to hit us in some way, shape, or form, then we go into activation mode. Can you explain what that is?
First, we'll start, before activation, let me finish your first question and then lead into that. We'll start making notification to the departments, to the city manager, to command, and our initial emails or communications are first just with the city manager's office, you guys in communications, public works, police, utilities, departments that are kind of like facing forward for this kind of stuff.
Right.
And then as the probability increases and the hours tick down and it's getting closer, then we widen, like the cone, narrows, we widen.
We widen our communication,
We widen our communication and we start talking to finance or whoever, whatever other departments it might be. And just to go back, knowing our audience, our residents, as we're talking to you, communications, you're passing that information on to the residents.
Right.
And kind of not keeping it as complicated as sometimes I might make it.
Correct. Yeah. Simple forms. Yes. That's what we try to do. Yep.
Yes. So as we're doing that, as we're getting ready to activate, we're getting closer. When it looks like it's inevitably going to hit, then we'll say, okay, I think, I will communicate with the city manager and say, Mr. City Manager, we think we need to activate the EOC. This is why, this is what we're looking at. And then we start calling in our staff. So what that means on an EOC level is we go from a staff of 3 to a staff of about 50, 50 in the room, 50 on standby. We'll talk about that later. And then maybe 1,000 out there in the field doing stuff to support the incident.
And our EOC is right in Building B.
Yes.
That's where we all go, Team A, Team B, after the storm. So he declares like a city state of emergency, right?
Local state of
emergency.
And it's real complicated. I won't get too deep in the weeds, but basically there's different types of states of emergency. The worst one, depending on how you look at it, the worst one means you're going to get the worst kind of disaster is a presidential state of emergency declaration of disaster. Then comes a state, like from the state of Florida, state of emergency, and then you have a local
one.
So the good thing is, if you have a presidential declaration, all the money that we spend gets reimbursed to us by the federal government. So that's a good thing because I was looking at the books on some of our peers, like on the West Coast, and they spent close to $1 billion during Milton, during Ian, during
Helene. That's the one that went all the way up to the Carolinas.
So, and it speaks good for local government. We'll spare no expense to save lives, property, on the local area. And historically, it's all emergencies are managed locally. That's kind of like one of our catchy sayings. So who better to handle that than us? So, because we live here, we know our residents, we know our city.
So we're activated. I'm on Team A. There's about half of our department is Team A, half of our department is Team B, probably like every other department. So Team A, we're in there during the storm. Team B comes and relieves us
Maybe.
after. Maybe relieved, right? We're going through that last year. So Team A's in there, the storm's going on. What is happening in our EOC?
Okay, so in the EOC, we work off of a management by objectives. How's that for complicated? And what it basically is the city manager and command staff. So that's like city manager, maybe chief of police, fire chief if it's a different kind. You know, the top folks kind of say, this is what we want to do. Like, we know this is going to be a really bad storm, so we want to make sure that we have, we don't think Publix and et cetera, Walmart will be opening within, 6 days after the storm. So we want to make sure that we have food and water for our residents. So we want what's called points of distribution,
Right.
where we hand out water, food, ice, whatever. Ice, maybe, it depends.
Yeah.
It's not a commitment. So we'll get that objective, set up 10 spots where we have pods for our residents, evenly distributed throughout the city. That's it, right? So to do that sounds simple, but you need about 120 personnel to carry that off, not to mention all the stuff that you're giving away. So those are all called tactics, like getting the people that we need is a tactic. Finding the places where we're going to set up shop is a tactic. So we have the objective from management, and then the operations guys, the guys and girls on the ground, make those tactics with their supervisors and fulfill those objectives that way.
Okay.
So for each operating period, or we were talking about Alpha, Bravo. That's dependent on operating periods. And to really understand that, there's like 4 main things that we focus on. We call it our pillars. It's life safety. We don't want anybody injured or dying. Property preservation. We don't want houses washing away. Economic stability, not to be dramatic, we can easily spend $10 to $20 million every 24 hours during a storm.
Wow.
We have it in Port St. Lucie. They have on the West Coast. Not because they're big spenders, but because
there was so much damage.
They had 20 feet of storm surge and so on. So, they had to build a bridge within a day to get food and water to people.
My dad lives over there.
So, you know it firsthand.
He would send photos. It was just incredible what a storm can do.
So we want to make sure, we want to save every life we can and keep our people as comfortable as we can, but we don't want to bankrupt the city. So that's where having all of that pre-stuff that we do in place really helps. And then lastly, we don't want to destroy our environment getting ourselves back on track. So we adhere to those 4 pillars. The first 2 pillars of life safety and property preservation, we don't sleep until those are stabilized. So this is back to your Alpha Bravo.
Yep.
We'll run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, bring out floodlights, do whatever we need to do to make sure that no one's going to get hurt or die, no one's going to lose their home from damage from nature or unnatural disaster.
Right.
So that's the Alpha Bravo, and that's kind of when we're activated. All of those things that are going on out in the field are directed ultimately from the EOC.
And as far as communications goes, our department, we're constantly pushing out information. Through social media. If people lose power, they could still have their phones. Radio. We have tons of news partners that we work with as well, which leads me into my next question about the county. They have their own emergency operations area, but we work hand in hand, side by side with them. We're in constant contact with them. Why does that relationship with them have to be so strong? It's crucial.
It's kind of like we're all in the same cruise ship, and the county and us are the only people with lifeboats.
Right.
So we have to coordinate real carefully. That's a good analogy.
It was.
We have to coordinate real carefully what we're doing and how we're doing it so we don't waste resources. So we get the resources that we need and they get the resources they need, that we don't confuse our citizens. Speaking about communications, here we have Sarah as our public information officer.
Yep.
The county has Eric. You don't want Sarah to give one message and Eric to give another. 'Cause
Exactly.
it causes confusion and leads to all kinds
Misinformation.
of bad things.
People, then they share that, and it's just not a good thing, especially
No.
during a disaster like that.
No way, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
Anything that we're going to tell our public, we don't directly speak to them. We speak to Sarah, who puts the message out, unless they need us to stand up and speak for them. But even then, our talking points are coordinated with Sarah and Eric, so everybody's on the same page. So there's communications needs to. The county, by state mandate, is over all shelters
Right.
countywide.
Right. I want to
So-
make sure people know that too. They ask us all the time, when are you guys opening shelters? And we have to go to Eric and find out,
Yeah,
because that's a county mandate.
That's the county
Yep.
thing, even if it's in the city proper.
Yep.
County,
There's several here. Yeah.
County opens or doesn't open. I mean, it depends on the magnitude of the storm.
And same with like winter weather. I won't say almost winter storms. We don't get those, but when there's cold weather, they open shelters too sometimes.
There's
Yeah.
one in the county, but we live in Florida.
But
so
it's this. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
county that does it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's county run. And evacuations are also county run. But we work hand in hand with
Sure.
them. We don't say, we're not going out there, it's a county thing. No, we'll go out and work and do what we got to do to work with them, and vice versa. When they were hit very hard by Hurricane Milton,
Yep.
by tornadoes up there, and our utilities department jumped in with them
Yeah.
and worked with them. So it's a close partnership.
Now the storm hits. I don't want to say it's a bad, really bad storm. So we're in there. The A team's in there. Alpha team is in there until it's decided we can leave. But
Maybe.
what happens afterwards when it's safe to go out? What is EM's job now?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So we spend we work 365 days a year.
Not just during hurricane
We
season.
don't
Yep.
just work during hurricane
Right.
season. So we get our finances lined up, and go figure. Government is sometimes complicated. So when we have to hand in documentation, pictures, whatever it is, to get that reimbursement from the federal government I was talking about before.
Yep.
It's not so easy as calling up, Mr. President, we need $1 million.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. You have to have your insurance policy submitted. You have to have your procurement policy submitted. You have to do everything a certain way. For those of you that worked in government, it's very different from the private sector. We can't just go buy something. There's a process, which is good because it keeps us as good stewards of your money,
Exactly.
taxpayer money.
Makes us
So-
accountable, transparent, the whole
so,
thing.
after, that's when that really comes in strongly. You
Right.
know? Response, what we're activation,
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about before, for a real bad one like Ian on the West Coast, was maybe a month.
Yeah.
They're still in recovery
They
from
are.
that. So recovery takes months or years.
Mm-hmm.
So after we get out of activation, we go into, and it's, we'll go back to those 4 pillars I was
Mm-hmm.
talking about. So always first and foremost, life safety and property preservation. We know those are stabilized. We want to reopen the city and get back to normal as quickly as
yep.
possible.
Safely as possible, quickly as possible.
Safely and
right.
quickly. Yeah, we're not going to rush that at the expense of anybody else.
Yeah.
But we know, people want to get out and go back to the park or whatever it might be. We want to get everybody back to normal as quickly as possible, of course, without risking anyone's safety. So we'll try and, once we have those pillars stabilized, we'll try and flip it around now where we're focusing on economy and environment. So mostly economy. We want to get the economy back on track. I mean, disasters can destroy a city. Think
They
of
can.
New Orleans, for those of you that are younger and are familiar with it. Like years ago, we had a bad storm called Katrina, and New Orleans in Louisiana was heavily impacted. They had a levees break, which held the water out, and thousands of people drowned. It was awful, and their recovery, people left. People
They did.
didn't stay. I mean, New Orleans, the big city there, lost half of its population, and the city almost didn't bounce back.
Yeah.
It's very important to us to do whatever we can to, get you, one, keep you safe, two, keep you here. Like
Yep.
we don't want you to leave. We want you to stay.
Yeah.
And we're going to do everything we can. If it's, get temporary housing accommodations, whatever we might need to help you towards your path for your recovery, you meaning our citizens, our residents, we're going to do.
Yeah.
So that's recovery's a very, very, like, if this whole thing was a pie, recovery's probably about 75% of it.
Right. Yeah. While we're on that topic, what's the most rewarding part of your job when it comes to emergencies? If there is there has to be a rewarding part of it. There's a disaster. What makes you feel the best out of all of this?
It's, anytime that I'm like working really, really hard, really, I work hard every day, but, in Superman mode, that means bad things are happening to people. And it doesn't make me happy. I don't want to make it sound that way, but I don't know. This is when I'm at my best, and that I could bring some stability and calm and normality to people at their worst moment really makes me feel good, keeps me coming back. It can be challenging, but it's what keeps me going.
And I love too that everyone works together, especially residents after 2004 hurricanes.
Oh, yeah.
Again, we're going back here. People cutting trees down for their neighbors, food and sharing generators. And it's a great thing to see. Disaster brings everyone together. It's awful. But in the end, everybody's working together, and it's rewarding. It makes you feel really good about your job.
We're all living on September 12th, 2001.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's when we were all happy to be Americans, proud to be Americans, and we all pulled together. And on a local level, after disasters, we got hit pretty hard by Milton. We lost our home, and people I hadn't spoke to in 40 years. Yes, I'm that old. In 40 years, what do you need? What can we do for you? I mean, it just people are great.
Yeah.
You might not feel it, but when we're all put to the test, most of us pass with flying colors, really step up to the plate and help each other. And when that's happening, that's another, that's a great bonus.
Yeah, I
really
agree.
is.
So we have we've got a Hurricane Expo coming up. Share some information about that.
It'll be the first Saturday in June. I think it's June 6th or 7th.
I think it's the 7th.
June 7th
June
this
7th.
year. We'll be using the same format we do every year. We'll have all of our local meteorologists, the men and women that you watch at your 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock news will be there and giving you tips about this season and, how to prepare. We'll have my favorite part. Well, before I get to my favorite, see, I'm getting a little excited. We have vendors, all local vendors who only people that are related to disaster response or preparedness or
There's
recovery.
shutter companies, roofing companies, the Red Cross.
Yeah.
Yep.
Folks that'll either help you prepare to not be impacted as strongly or to help you recover afterwards. So those will be our vendors. It's like a one-stop shop to be storm ready 2025. And my favorite part, I don't know about the rest of the world, but my favorite part is we always get a panel of our local emergency managers.
It's great, yeah.
And we just sit up there and interact with the audience, and because usually we're like Oz, we're the men and women behind the screen, and
Right.
nobody sees us. But here, all the directors come together. We sit up and we, answer questions.
Take questions from the audience.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's my favorite part.
Yeah, it's a great event, and I think it gets bigger every single year. It's Mid-Florida Event Center, and we increased it last year, moved back into the back. We expanded it. So, yeah, it's great. So that's June 7th. I think it's 10 to 2.
Yep,
Yeah.
10 to 2, June 7th.
So Shane Ratliff, I always say Ratliff came in 2 years ago. He was like our second podcast. He offered some really great advice. What are those 4 things that you tell people?
Is this a test?
All the time. It's not a test, because I know you know this by heart. There's 4 things we tell our residents, because, they need to prepare, not just, they can't prepare a week before the storm. They should be doing this all year.
Now's the time, and then you'll have tax-free holidays that the state rolls down to us.
Yep.
And all, during those times, all disaster products are tax-free, or most.
And we'll let you know usually on social media. I'll share stuff all the time about when those are happening.
We'll communicate with Maureen, and Maureen will get the word out to you, our residents. 4 things, okay. Make a plan. Have a plan for yourself and your family. Everyone's plan is a little bit different.
Yep.
So make it your plan. There's some good templates online to kind of give you ideas and get you started, but make sure you have a family plan. Know your zone. This is, and I'm sorry to be morbid, but this is where we lose people all the time. Lose meaning die.
Right.
Sorry. Know your zone. Know if you live in a flood zone. If you're in an evacuation zone and you're told to evacuate, I implore you, evacuate. That's most people that are lost during a hurricane are lost due to flooding.
Storm surge.
Due to storm surge.
Yep.
So please, if you're told to evacuate, evacuate. Get a kit. Have your hurricane kit ready. Usually that's a gallon of water per day. And
Per person per day, right?
Per person per day. Dry goods or not dry goods, maybe cans of tuna. Don't forget, you might not have electricity, so get a manual can opener. If you take maintenance medicines, make sure you have an ample supply. Here's a handy tip. When we're under when we're under a disaster declaration, you know how your health insurance will only let you get 30 days worth of medicines?
Right.
Don't go there after 28 days, because they're not going to give it to you. It's got to be 30. I'm being facetious,
but think ahead.
It's close.
That's why we're telling you.
But during a declaration, that goes away. So if you refilled your meds yesterday and we're under a declaration today, you can refill them again today. Have your meds. That's got to be part of your kit, part of your plan.
And don't forget pets too.
And your pets, if your pets are on meds, pet food, extra water for your pets.
Yep.
It's a hard. They get a fur coat all year long.
They do.
Unless they're fish, they have a fur coat all year long. So we need extra water and stuff like that. And also, if you have little ones, have some board games or card games.
Yep.
Because, I don't know what the newest games are. My kids are in their 20s. But Nintendo, whatever, may not stay
No
charged.
Electricity. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess cell phones, right?
Right.
Cell phones
Yeah, you
might
can use
not.
your cell phone. Do we have one more? I don't think you hit that last one. Did you hit that last one?
No, get a kit, make a plan, stay informed, know your zone.
Know your zone.
So stay informed,
Stay
is
informed.
the one I didn't talk about.
Yeah.
Because we've been talking about
We
it
have the whole time.
all along. Know where you're going to get your news from, where you feel most comfortable. I really, again, I'll implore you a second thing, use your local news. Don't depend on, and I love Jim Gantori and all the people at the Weather Channel. It's not against them, but you're going to probably get your best directives from your local governments, your local meteorologists. So that's where I'd be looking.
Yep, I agree. 100%.
National news, you're getting like a 10,000-foot view, which you don't really need. You need a 50-foot view right then. when we're in it.
Right.
So make a plan, get a kit, stay informed, know your zone. Do those 4 things.
Do them now, folks.
Yeah, please get
Yeah.
and the plan always seems to challenge people. Just think, worst case scenario, what are we going to do?
Yep.
How are we going to stay in touch with those people that care about us that don't live here, that live maybe up north or out west or wherever they might be.
We have all of this information too at on our website, cityofpsl.com/hurricane, and there's also cityofpsl.com/flood, I believe too. Flood insurance, super important if you don't have it. But we have all this information for you. I'll share it in the show notes too. Billy.
Speaking of
Yeah.
Shane and floods, Flane's our Shane. Flane.
Sorry, Shane.
Shane's our flood mitigation expert,
Yep.
our community rating system. And because of his and most of our department's hard work, we all collaborated. We do this thing through FEMA, which lowers your flood insurance. So it gets you a discount of, I believe, 10% if you're outside of the special flood hazard area, up to 50% if you live in the special flood hazard area.
That's awesome.
So, because of the city's hard work, you're getting a discount on your flood insurance. And weather's been crazy, so
It sure has.
I would, I have it. I'd advise you to get it too.
Good. Billy, thanks so much for coming in. We're going to end it with our 10 questions really quick, though.
Okay.
We always try to do this just to get to know our residents a little bit. But we really appreciate you coming in. I'm excited about this month's worth of podcasts because it's all about safety, keeping our city safe, keeping our residents safe, and showing you how to do it and how, kind of the ins and outs of how we do it. So I'm really looking forward to them. So you ready?
Okay.
We'll do it real quick.
Okay.
Your favorite food?
Kugel.
Oh, okay. Favorite movie?
The Batman movies.
All of them. Okay.
Yes.
Favorite hobby?
Fishing.
Okay, that's Florida. How about your favorite singer or band?
He's a violinist, Yitzhak Perlman.
Oh, yeah.
He's
Love.
awesome.
It's wonderful. How about your favorite book?
The Stand by Stephen
Stephen King. Nice. Favorite holiday?
Passover. Whole family got to listen to me for 2 hours. It's great.
I'm sure they love it.
They're rapt attention. It's the only day, but it's nice.
All right. How about your favorite place to visit?
New York.
Big Apple. Favorite dessert?
Rum raisin ice cream.
Oh, that's pretty specific. I like
Yes,
that.
I eat it every night.
Favorite TV show?
Seinfeld.
Oh, that's a good one. Last but not least, your favorite color?
Cobalt blue.
Oh, specific color blue too.
Very specific.
I love that. Look at you with pulling out these answers. Thank you so much again, Billy. We really appreciate it. Again, cityofpsl.com/hurricane and cityofpsl.com/flood. All your information is there. And fingers crossed, we don't have to go through this hurricane season.
Hope so.
But if we do, we're going to be prepared for it, and we're going to help you get through it.
Yes.
Thanks, Billy.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.